Dear members, dear partners, dear friends, today Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission President, presented the achievements of the Union in the last years and the priorities for the European Commission for the years to come. And she said, it was quite interesting, and so said also the European Parliament's President, Metsola, that Europe is stronger and more united than ever. I let you decide on whether this is correct to you, but here at CESI, we fully share this opinion. Just think back over the past years, what has happened. Just think of the many crises we are facing, including the COVID-19 pandemic, Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine, energy and supply shortages, skyrocketing prices. And however, despite these unforeseeable crises, the European Union, according to us, according to me, has worked properly to address them. In the face of the COVID-19 pandemic, for instance, the joint procurement of vaccines and initiatives like the Recovery and Resilience Facility and the SURE instrument have shown the EU's ability to coordinate and to respond effectively to, well, serious and rapidly evolving crises. And then last year, when Putin's Russia attempted to invade Ukraine, the EU showed, I mean, we only read the critics and the newspapers and somewhere else, but the EU showed swiftly implemented sanctions and responded to energy shortages. These actions showed that Europe is united and that Europe can be united when it is facing serious crisis. Then we had inflation, which was exacerbated by price fluctuation, energy price fluctuations, which also posed significant challenges, where the European Commission provided guidance to member states to ease financial pressure. Of course, we also saw missed opportunities, such as imposing windfall taxes on energy companies, and which contributed to an increase of social inequalities. However, amidst these crises, Europe did not lose sight of its long-term goals. First of all, the European Commission has continued its commitment to the green and digital transitions with ambitious climate targets and support measures like the Just Transition Fund to ensure that workers and citizens adversely affected are adequately supported. And we saw significant strides which have been made in employment, social affairs, and gender equality in line with the European Pillar of Social Rights initiatives, such as the new directive on minimum wages and the proposed platform economy directive, which aim to address in-work poverty and social exclusion while promoting collective bargaining and the role of unions. Despite these achievements, social and employment challenges remain substantial for us as trade unions, but also, of course, for the citizens. And to make the European Pillar of Social Rights a reality, we must sustain our joint commitment and endeavor by involving all stakeholders, including social partners, civil society, and local authorities. We represent here at CESI public services work, and of course we highlight that public services have played a pivotal role in responding to crisis, and investments in these services are and remain essential for creating resilient and fair societies. Adequate funding and personnel are required to ensure that public services can meet the demands of the citizens in unknown crises in the future. And the President highlighted three major challenges, current challenges: skills shortages, inflation, and the competitiveness of the European economy. Looking ahead to the next term, several expectations have been outlined. First and foremost, we need a clear and ambitious agenda for performing public services with sufficient investments in facilities, resources, equipment, and staff. This investment extends to employment and working conditions to ensure resilient and responsive public service. To face social challenges, strong trade unions, strong social dialogue are needed. That means trade union pluralism and inclusive social dialogues, both at EU and national levels, are crucial. Strengthening the role of social partners in policy making is important for achieving sustainability in all legislative and non-legislative initiatives. The fair digital and green transitions should prioritize decent employment and working conditions, access to training, and adequate social protection for workers. And in terms of legislation, we from CESI, we expect some clear moves here in the future. First of all, we must revive EU public procurement rule and state aid legislation to include binding sustainability and social conditionalities for beneficiaries. Then we need a framework directive for decent work, which can provide a preventive baseline regulation to avoid precarious work from developing. And we must revise the legislation on atypical work, such as the directives on temporary agency work, fixed-term work contracts, and part-time work, to close discriminatory loopholes to ensure equal treatment for all workers. Finally, in our pursuit for a more social Europe, it's imperative to recognize the symbiotic relationship between competitiveness and social progress. Only a competitive Europe is better equipped to create jobs, to create quality jobs, to stimulate economic growth, and to generate the resources needed to fund essential social services and public services. I believe it is true, coming back to what I said at the beginning, that Europe is today indeed more united than ever. And despite all the confusion of competences, all the unsolved problems, all the scandals we hear about, it still stands for a fantastic approach that should really unite us in the long term in understanding, first of all, an understanding that puts compromise over brute force intimidation in times of war, I think, fundamentally important, and a recognition that establishes cooperation at eye level as a fundament. So I believe it is worth fighting for it, and so does CESI. And we hope so do you. Thank you very much.